Welcome to Amateur Redneck Workshop. This is going to be probably a fairly short video where I show you the stuff I'm working on with the plasma cutting table. Right off I could see that I needed a torch height control, so I ordered one that I'd watched another guy on another channel use, and he highly recommended it. So I got a Proma SD50. These things are expensive, but this is one of the middle of the range expenses. There's even cheaper ones out there, but anyway, this one is intended to be in the line between Mach 4 and the PMDX Smart Bob and the stepper controller, so you should be able to give signals through it to the Z-axis from Mach 4, and raise and lower the axis. And then when the torch is cutting, well, then the Proma is supposed to take over the Z-axis and control it by itself. Well, they showed an arrangement with the ground wires that I wasn't comfortable with, and I asked questions about it in a couple of forums, and nobody was really brave enough to answer them. So, I decided to just go ahead and change it around for the Proma to be a standalone device. Now this removes control from Mach 4 of the Z-axis and gives all the control to the Proma. And I'll show you the wiring here so that you can understand what I'm talking about as to why I went to a standalone. Hang on. Alright, now this was the original configuration. The CNC here is connected by USB cable to the Smart Bob that supplies the power for it. The power supply was supplying power straight to the stepper controller, and the power supply was supplying power to the Proma THC, torch height controller. And the signals from the CNC for the step and direction were going to the Smart Bob, and from the Smart Bob to the Proma, and from the Proma out to the stepper controller. This was a little complicated for me to figure as to what tuning was bothering me, and I was having a lot of trouble at that point. And the Proma guys wanted me to hook the common from this guy and this guy and this guy all together. So now I didn't want to hook the common from the Smart Bob to the power supply because it was already hooked to the common on my laptop, coming in from the CNC there on a USB cable. And I, being unsure of that, I asked questions on a couple of forums. Like I say, nobody was brave enough to take an answer on it. So what I decided that the best thing for me to do was to get the Smart Bob out of the picture, let the Proma handle torch height control all by itself, because it's controlling the height based on the voltage coming out of the prime weld plasma cutter. So I'll show you how it looks now. Alright, now then, this is the current setup. What we've got here is the laptop, which has got Mach 4 running on it, has a USB cable going to the Smart Bob, which is the PMDX 416 Smart Breakout Box, and it controls the X and Y axes only. Okay, the Proma torch height controller is reading the voltage from the torch on the prime weld plasma cutter. The power supply is supplying logic power on the plus and minus to the Proma. The same power is tied into the stepper controller, so that and for the stepper controller has two common connections, one where it sends the power to the stepper motor and one where it takes power for its logic. Both of those both of the commons are tied together. They're tied together with the common on the power supply. They're tied together with the common on the Proma. So we're totally standalone with the Proma. He makes all the decisions on the Z-axis, whether it goes up or down or whatever. And you'd think, well, that is a little inconvenient then, that I have to unplug the power to the to the Proma so that it lets go of the stepper motor. And I go over and turn it by hand to set the pierce height, plug everything in and take off from there, and it does all the cutting. And we're going to see some video of me cutting a couple of things and the results of the stuff, and some video of the Proma working. But before that, I've got something of another nature to talk to you about. Now, when it comes to gun control activists and candidates and such, they tend to tell a whole lot of lies about the statistics in the first place. And they come in, they quickly dump 40,000 deaths on you. Well, half of the gun fatalities are suicides, and you can't include suicides into whether they had a gun or not, whether they commit suicide. And the reason I can say that for a fact is Japan has a 50% higher suicide rate than the U.S. They don't have any guns. South Korea's got a double the suicide rate of the U.S. and they don't have any guns. So these people are depressed. They're not stupid. If they want to, off themselves, they can find a way pretty quick. Dozens of ways, in fact. All right. Now then, let's just move down the page. This is the 2018 Crime in the United States report from the FBI. And I'm going to put a link down in the doobly-doo down below the video so you can go and see it for yourself. Now, I don't want you to take my word for nothing. I want you to go and look at it for yourself. All right? But here we come down here to how many people have got killed. Here we're talking about homicides. And it could be justifiable homicide where some guy was killed somebody defending himself. If the cops shot somebody, that's homicide. If you murdered somebody, like the drug dealers and such, out fighting over territory and robbing each other and stuff, that's homicide. All these murders. In fact, I would say that from what I can see, about half of the homicides are criminal activity by drug dealers and gang members and such, killing each other off. And I'm not totally against that. Anyway, we'll get down to it. Out of the murders, total murders, over 14,000 total murders in the U.S. in 2018, which is a long ways from the 40,000 that I heard people talking about just the other night in a debate. Now, out of those total murders, firearms were responsible for a little over 10,265, right there. Out of that, handguns were responsible for 6,600 and some odd. Rifles for 297. It's a big difference between 297 and 6,000. All right, let's move on down. Shotguns were responsible for 235 murders, and firearms of type unknown were 3,000. Undoubtedly, that would have the same ratio as the ones they know about if they ever figure it out. We come down to knives or cutting instruments. We've got 1,515 murders with that, which is whoa, what's that? Almost 3-4 times as much as with rifles. We come to other weapons. There's 1,600 people murdered there. I assume other weapons are golf clubs, screwdrivers, pieces of pipe, rocks, big old 2x4, whatever. We come down to hands, fists, and feet, and we got 672 people who got beat to death or stomped to death. That is itself more than twice as many people as were killed with rifles. And that means any kind of rifle, bolt action, AR-15, AK-47, you name it, whatever it is you got. It's all under the category of rifles. But there's a lot of the gun grabbers, they want to get rid of those evil rifles because they're just killing people right and left, all up and down the street. And I have to say, well, 297 murders out of 14,000 doesn't sound like it's the biggest part of the problem. In fact, if you want to get into deaths in the U.S. that somebody needs to do something about it. Look at last year's drug overdoses, 72,000. That's right, 72,000 people died of drug overdose last year. And there's people who want to make drugs legal. Sounds like a good move to me. They couldn't do nothing about it while they were illegal, so give up and make it legal, huh? All right, I just wanted to point out some of these things. They must have some terrible ulterior motive in concentrating on the 297 rifles, you know, the 297 murders out of 14,000 that were done with rifles. Why would you pick the smallest item to save the world from? Think about that. Well, before we go and look at the torch, I'm going to go ahead and include suppressors in this. Suppressors are commonly known as silencers. If you've ever seen a movie, every bad guy in the movie's got a silencer and he goes psh, 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 and you can hardly hear anything. But I've got a set of a list here on the real effect of a suppressor on a firearm, and the average gunshot unsuppressed is 160 decibels. That's pretty dang loud. A fighter jet at launch is 150 decibels. That's quieter than the average gunshot. The immediate hearing damage happens at 140 decibels. So you don't want to be out there without hearing protection watching jets take off or listening to the shooting range, either one. Now the average gunshot with a suppressor is 130 decibels. That steps down from 160. We got a 30 decibel reduction. Pretty good. Jackhammer, you've heard them out there busting up concrete. They're pretty loud and annoying. They're 120 decibels. That's less noise than a suppressed firearm. A chainsaw is 110 decibels. Motorcycle 100, you know. The fake suppressors in the movies are 70 decibels. Think about it. People who made these things against the law, people that's never heard one, been around one, they don't know anything about what they're making laws about. It's just scary because they saw it in the movies, and they don't have sense enough to know that the stuff in the movies isn't real. That's my first really good circular hole, and I think it looks really nice, and I think the edge of the cut looks pretty good too. Let me see if I can pick this hot little booger up and hold it up to the camera. I think that's a pretty nice edge. Undoubtedly, I think I've about got her tuned for 1/8 inch metal. Alright, so I decided to make a hole, and that's my hole. It's supposed to be 1 inch square. I'll get something to measure it in a minute. I didn't really intend to have that little lead-in part there. Somehow I messed up one. I'm not zeroing my coordinates. But anyway, it cut that little square out, and the square just fell out. I didn't have to knock it out or anything. See if I can pick it up. Not very good left-handed, let's see if I can do it right-handed. And there's the kind of an edge that it has. I'm not very steady here. Well, easier to move the camera than to move the metal. But anyway, yeah, a lot of slag on the back. That'll be my next problem to work out. But obviously, I'm catching on how to tune this thing. I started on 3/16 metal, which is a harder job for the torch, and I moved down to the 1/8, which the torch seems to love, 1/8. And I've got some lighter metal over there in the corner, I think, so I'm going to try some of that and see what it does. This is a piece of 20 gauge, and I don't know if you can see the light through there or not, but I did really good until I came along to that piece that's bent up there. It stopped on that. Couldn't get past it, of course. But I think I've managed to cut the end off of it here, at least enough I can take a hacksaw and finish the little edges. I couldn't get closer to the edge here. And then you can see that that sheet is just sort of laying in there. It was too big for the table. It's laying in there cockeyed, and it cut it anyway. So I think things are really working out now. Alright, laying up like that, you can see the daylight through it, and we'll go around the other side of it here and take a look. And the slag's not that bad here either. You know, that was cut at 30 inches per minute, 50 amps. I didn't cut the amps back, and looks like it did good. Okay, I'm going to turn on the video here and go around to the other side and run the other side of it, and you can watch the torch cut. I've got video already of the other stuff that we'll work into here also. This is some test code that I came up with. I haven't tried this particular piece. I wrote the stuff for the circle and the square, and this is this is a circle and square. Hopefully, it may work, it may not. We'll see. I was a little bit slow on cutting that circle, so it got a little overheated on the edges. As you can see, I'm not any great whiz at writing my own G-code, but if the sheet metal holds out, I'll figure it out. I just want you guys to see that I haven't give up on the plasma torch, and assure you that we will reach a point where it does everything I want it to do. I haven't got any fancy files to make cars or puppy dog cutouts or anything like that, but someday, and I'll come back to you with those later on. But anyway, that's it. Well, that's all, folks. Y'all try to subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. Leave a comment if you got something to say. And above all, remember, keep on keeping on. Bye now.